Welcome, welcome, welcome to Business Strategies and Tips with Lady L. I am your host, Lady L. Did you guys miss me? I guess she said, wow, she's been on every day of the week for for 4 or 5 months. And now she just kind of disappeared. No, I didn't. I've been in the lab working on developing myself in this arena, in this platform. And it has been an exciting journey so far. So you will always catch me this same time every Friday. I will be bringing a guest coming on to interview and to share some business strategies and tips with you from the tax exempt world, from the for profit world, from the financial world, from all walks of the business industries, so that you can get a well rounded opportunity to get all of the information you need, and most of all, the encouragement for you to become a successful, profitable business. Well, I want to get started. I don't want to hold you guys up. I am so excited about my guest today. I'll tell you a little bit about this gentleman before I bring him on. When I relocated back to Georgia, from New Jersey, this gentleman was one of the first gentlemen that I was introduced to in my process of developing collaborations and business partnerships. And he graciously connected me to his vision, mission, and purpose, because he touched the one passion that I have above everything, and that is music. I come from a musical family, fourth and fifth generation music, singers, performers, artists. I even got cousins in Japan that's been rocking it for years. So it just pushed my button automatically. There wasn't much he needed to ask me. The question is, what are you doing? Music and youth, that's my arena. I just love being around creative youth. So, and adding music to that just made it that much more sweeter. So with that being said, I want to have the privilege and opportunity of introducing to you this awesome and a man of God. Business Strategies and Tips, Lady L, introduces my special guest, Jerry Hesselink, the CEO and founder of Henry for Music. On Thursday, July 28th, 2022, from 5 to 7 p.m., we are hosting a Toasting for Charities event at the Georgia Gallery in McDonough, Georgia. So we have been promoting this event for quite some time. You may have seen the flyer on my social media, because what these events do, it gives us the ability to be able to bring music to our young people. So I'm going to continue. With my introduction of Mr. Jerry Hesselink. Jerry is a military officer, an artist, a generational development entrepreneur, a community servant leader, and you will often hear him say this particular slogan: he wants to bring to our youth joy through music. The pictures you are seeing is our first class of our Youth Orchestra United. The pictures on the right, the left, my right, your left, are instruments that the organization has donated. The orchestra to my right, your left, is our actual orchestra of the students that you see in the middle. These students in the middle are now in middle school, some of them are in high school, and they have matriculated from our program into different levels of their middle school, high school, and even some college experiences. And I'll have Jerry tell you more about that, because we partnered with a couple of organizations that he's going to talk about. So let's get moving. I present to you now Mr. Jerry Hesselink, the CEO and founder of Henry for Music.
Wow.
Welcome, Jerry.
Quite an introduction. Didn't expect to see all those images there. That's quite an array that I've seen before, but not in that collage. That was really great.
We master the collages, right? We become PowerPoint champs.
Yeah, one of the things that you had asked me about previously is how I wanted to be introduced, and our young people in our orchestra started to call me, rather than calling me by my first and last name, they called me by Mr. Jerry. So that kind of stuck, and it felt good for the young people to call you something a little different than what you're used to, and it made the connection really solid, I think, to have that feeling when they would call Mr. Jerry.
Yes.
So
they affectionately call him Mr. Jerry. When I say that, I say it in the context of you can tell that they are safe, that they are comfortable, that they see his genuine care and concern for them. They see his genuine care and concern for them developing musically. And when you show children, youth, love, they know that it's genuine or not. They know that it's real or not. And they just have a bright, exuberant light that they shine. They just light up when they know they are around people that are genuinely caring for them and making sure that things are for their betterment and for their lifestyles. So with that being said, Mr. Jerry, briefly tell us how you came about Henry for Music. What was the vision? What was the drive that made you turn Henry for Music Inc. into a legal business entity?
Well, sometimes you kind of trip across something. Just to kind of go back real quick to my bringing up, my mother wanted me to play piano since she played piano. And I don't know, I just couldn't handle that for whatever reason, and I wanted to play baseball. And so baseball kind of won out, and I went and played baseball. And however, I carried my musical instrument with me, which is my vocal system, and I stayed into vocal music all my life, and participated in community theater as well, and did a few things like South Pacific and that type of thing, and came here to Georgia and joined the Conyers Covington Choral Guild. Went to New York City and sang in the church there off Central Park, which was exciting. And then later on we found out that the community chorus in Henry County was doing some Broadway musical stuff. So I ventured over there and participated with them for about 3 or 4 years, and sang at their concerts and did a little media promotion for them. However, the name of Henry for Music, I looked around and I said, well, you know, I'm retired from the Army, working for the Army, and retired from the Army Reserve, and I really need to do something different. And so I said, well, what the heck is it that I could do? I need to influence music somehow. And so I went on the internet and I found this organization called Hungry for Music, and found out the founder of that organization at one time had been homeless in Washington, D.C. And he started collecting musical instruments. So I contacted Jeff Chandler and said, Jeff, how do you do this? And he had been doing this for like 20 years. And he had collected something like over 20,000 instruments, and found people to help him repair and refurbish those instruments. And he was distributing those instruments across the world, not only in the United States, but to other countries, and getting children to participate in music programs locally, wherever he could distribute those instruments. And so he gave me a few tips on what to do. And I said, Hungry for Music. Now, Jeff, where are you going with this organization? I know you're in D.C. Doing your business out of there, and you've got a mobile van or something that you travel around and distribute instruments in the United States. So he said, well, you just got to start networking and finding the organizations that will help you distribute the instruments. So I said, hungry for music, and he told me a little bit about his organization would probably grow to the extent of eventually coming to Atlanta and establishing a sub-facility here to operate. And I said, okay, we use the term HFM quite a bit in our distribution of information, called Henry for Music. And I said, well, now maybe I need to keep those 3 letters, HFM, Hungry for Music, in our display of media or whatever we do, advertising, so that when Hungry for Music comes to Atlanta, I told Jeff, I said, well, we'll start something down here, whatever that is, and maybe I'll be able to sit in the office and help you with your computer stuff or something when you get here. And we'll just kind of merge into Hungry for Music as what we're doing in the Atlanta area. So I thought keeping Hungry for Music might be a good idea. So that's why it's FOR rather than number 4 in our
Yes.
title. Waiting for Jeff Chandler to still come to Atlanta. He still has it on the books. He doesn't know when it's going to happen, but you never know what will happen from that point forward.
Yeah, COVID didn't help. That kind of made a few things set back.
So that's kind of where Henry for Music came from. Using the term Henry County, since we're based in Henry County, and starting small, and we didn't know where it would go, but then I started to find energized people like Miss Laverne, Miss Lady L, and so we started to grow a little bit by knowing that we could get a little bit of help from the outside, from other people. And so that's kind of where Hungry for Music came from, and it's called Henry for Music. However, we don't limit ourselves to Henry County. We have grown into Clayton County in a few schools. We've distributed instruments to the high school, to the middle schools, elementary schools, probably well over 200 instruments now, and we still have 150 instruments in our inventory. And so one of the things that I connected with originally is I looked around and I tried to find organizations that we could collaborate with or partner with that would help us do what we're trying to do, and that was to bring children into the music program, primarily looking at the school system to provide that support role for the music program. And of course, in Henry County, in the public schools, we have about 42,000 students now. And then we have many private schools that have music programs also. And we don't have any, since we're a nonprofit, what people always say about nonprofit organizations, that they're a little messy once in a while. And that's very true, because sometimes we don't want to follow the principles necessarily, or the direction that is the right thing to do, and we adventure out into some other area. It reminds me of a little story about I have many stories of young people getting a musical instrument from our organization, but the one that really strikes me is the young man who came from Clayton County to Henry County, and he had to give up his clarinet to the school system in Clayton County, because if a child wants to be in music in that county, the school system usually provides it. It's not quite that dramatic here in Henry County. So we see our vision as being able to help support that system where a child cannot, or a family is unable to provide the musical instrument for their student in school, and they can come to us, and we don't, if we get an application from a teacher or from a principal or social worker or parent, we go to work on that and fill it. And we don't check incomes and all that. We know that there's a need, Otherwise, they wouldn't file an application with us. And so
Absolutely.
we make that, if we have it in our inventory, we hurry to provide that and connect with the music teacher that they're connected with to get them into band or orchestra.
Yes.
And but the young man that we had who had needed a clarinet when he came to Clayton County, the school that he was in couldn't provide the clarinet. So the music teacher sent Grandma, who he was living with, to our organization. So Grandma contacted me, and I kind of have a favorite spot for grandmothers who are taking care of young children.
Yes. Absolutely.
One at Eagles Landing Academy that we had with a French horn, but also this young man with a clarinet. So I just had a thing. I didn't have a good clarinet in my inventory at the time. They don't last as long as a brass horn, as a trumpet does sometimes.
Yes.
But so I just said, well, we have enough money, so we have enough grant money to take care of this young man. So we sent him to the local music store and said, you go to the music store with your grandmother and you find the clarinet you need there, and we will consider supporting that for you. So it's kind of unique. Grandma calls me up from the music store and says, hey, we found a clarinet, but my grandson would like a better clarinet than what you're supporting. So I said, well, we can only provide the $175 to pay for that used clarinet that the music store has. And so he took $60 out of his personal savings account to put with our money to buy the better clarinet from the music store.
Absolutely.
And I asked Grandma, was that okay with her? She says, yeah, if he wants to do that. So we partnered up with that young man and provided him with a clarinet to stay in the band.
Yes.
And
that's what I've noticed about our students that we have the privilege of connecting to, and they understand our process as far as how the instruments come in, how they're refurbished for them. We make sure that they are of a quality standard to refurbish, because we're looking for that instrument to matriculate with that student, whether it's from elementary to middle, from middle to high school, from high school to college. And we have seen how we've had to refit the child because the child grows. So we make sure that that instrument is switched out. We make sure that that student, as long as they are in some type of music program in their school system, or if they're taking private lessons because they're doing something on a private level, especially our college students, we want to make sure that the least of their worry is an instrument. That they can audition for their school orchestras and bands, that they are able to participate without the worry of where am I going to get this instrument. And just like Jerry just mentioned with the student with the clarinet, when they see that we put in the sweat equity for them and on their behalf, we do hold them accountable and responsible for the care of that instrument. We do maintenance the instrument as long as it is in their possession and they're using it. But to have the students understand the value of the services that Henry for Music provides to them, for them to put in their time and their finances to match because of their specific preference. That's one of the main goals that we like to see, because when a youth invests in themselves and see the value of investing in themselves, then they're able to take those standards, those ethics, those morals, those character building traits throughout their entire career. And that leads me to my next question, Jerry. We've often talked about, we've had our conversations about the difference between STEM and STEAM. We know STEM is a big deal because it's industry driven. Your science, your technology, your energy, your engineering, and your math and medicine. I like to combine the two. because we understand that that is the trend of industry. That's where our young people are going to be taking their futures into these arenas. But what we've also found out, and Jerry, you can share with us some statistical information that I know you know off the top of your head because we've talked about this often. Life is about balance. And even though we have our technical skills, we need to have some personable skills. Our children need to have social skills. And with technology being like it is, I find it amazing that two students can be sitting right next to each other, and there's not one verbal word spoken, but they're communicating back and forth to each other on the phone, sitting right there. It's like, oh my God, they're not going to have any social skills. They're not even going to be able to talk. So we help develop that through music by putting the A in STEM. The A is right in the middle, kind of, sort of, or before you get to the end of the word. But Jerry, tell us how do you see Henry for Music, what we've been doing and what we want to see done? How we've been accomplishing adding that A in STEM?
Well, one of the things we originally connected with Community and Schools.
Yes.
For Henry County, back when in 2015, 2016. So we've been doing this now for about 8 or 9 years almost already. And so we connected with Community and Schools, and the executive director there said, it's a national program, and it graduates down into the state level and then into those county school systems that want to pick up with that organization. They do that. Henry County is one of those organizations that have connected with Community and Schools. And so I asked the executive director, I says, I see all the good things you're doing, trying to get students to provide them with whatever they need in order for them to graduate, to ensure that they graduate from high school. But I says, I don't see any arts that you're providing or music. And could we talk about that and start working on that? So he said, sounds like a good idea to me. So he sent one of his people over to a middle school in Henry County. They found 25 students that could not get into the band in that school because neither the school nor the family could provide the musical instruments. So I said, well, let's go to work on that. So we did. So we created a memorandum of understanding between ourselves and Community and Schools Henry, which still exists today, actually. The memorandum has not been voided by either organization, so it still exists, and I look at that every once in a while and I say, well, we're still participating. So we participated in our expo, their outdoor expo, in 2017, I believe it was, or 16, and tried to find out from parents that were attending that what their needs were. And so we fill that requirement of those 25 instruments at the middle school. We went on to communicate with the district people of Henry County Schools to find out why wasn't it that they weren't asking for any money from grant programs for music. And it was alarming to me that there is lots and lots of money for arts programs around the country and around the world, and why our local school system wasn't asking for grants from those organizations. So we inspired them to do that with Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation. And lo and behold, after we kicked the bucket a few times, we found that the arts director could make that work if he wanted to. But we had to get the whip out a little bit.
That's that military strategy that kicked in.
Well, you just have to keep asking and making inquiries kindly. And but you have to be there in order to make that happen. So that's kind of one of my instincts, I guess, that I follow. And so I checked in with Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation to find out what the rules were. And I gave the rules to the district of the school to follow these rules and say, you need to get an invitation. Well, finally we got the invitation, and the end result anyway was that the CATS organization, partly out of Atlanta, provided the funding. And Stockbridge Middle School and McDonough Middle School both acquired 10 or 20 new instruments in each band program. So that's 40,
Awesome.
40 brand new instruments. And now I check with the music stores today, and they tell me those instruments really are lasting a long time without any work on them. And that means they were probably a really good quality product that was provided. And so both of those schools gained quite a bit by getting those new instruments, as well as our used instruments that were repaired and refurbished with our grant money that we acquired. You know, and so we've gone on from there and furnished to other schools, such as last March we acquired 12 brand new guitars.
Yes, that was
And
awesome.
they were in my closet for quite a while after they arrived from gifts of guitars from Nashville. Because you have to, as a nonprofit organization, you have to look around to find out where the opportunities are at.
Yes.
And the opportunities are, and then you have to review the opportunities to acquire either funding or in-kind products, such as the guitars that came from Nashville. And so I've connected with all the school board members in our public schools, and I found at least a few of them that are pretty amenable to taking some information that we have and acting on it.
Yes.
And one of them was I had these 12 guitars that we needed to get to a middle school because they were half-size guitars, and they only fit those those elementary school kids' arms, you know, size-wise.
Yeah.
And I've learned that too, and I learned about different sizes of violins.
Yes.
For different sized
That
kids.
was interesting when we had to switch violins out because the kids grew.
So anyway, our little demonstration that we had one of our school board members find an elementary school that would take those guitars and put them to work. And so we had one of our sponsors, which is our trucking company, that we have acquired and over the years, and we got their truck to deliver those guitars to the front of the school to deliver them with their big yellow truck. And we sent out a news news release to all the new local affiliates, and we had CBS showed up with their camera.
I think our sponsor was more or just as excited as the kids to get the guitars. They looked like they were like Santa Clauses to these kids. They were so excited.
Not only the truck showed up, but they showed up with 6 of their staff people and their CEO.
Yes.
So they
Now
were
you
quite
know,
excited.
CEO
Yep.
comes to something that is I can't even describe it. For a CEO to say, I want to see the joy of music on these young people's faces and shake their hands, that's amazing. That's just amazing.
So to make those guitars work, of course, our news media got coverage around the United States, and I know one of our board directors followed up on the where did that story go? Well, come to find out, it ended up in Honolulu at the local CBS affiliate out there, and they said, "Oh, here's a feel-good story from Georgia." So that was back last, and so I guess they said, "Well, let's run that." So they ran the story on the local CBS affiliate in Honolulu, as well as other places in the country. And we furnished the information back to the nonprofit organization in Nashville to give her feedback as to what happened to those guitars. So she could use that in her endeavors to get more sponsors for what she was doing in Nashville area. And so keeping those connections going are what's important, I think, to not only us, but to our collaboratives and also to our sponsors. You can look at our website and see many of our sponsors. They are very different in who they are. Some are banking institutions, some are trucking companies, and some are the Atlanta Motor Speedway Children's Charities. We have a Heritage Foundation. We now have a trust organization named after a couple, and so no application goes into them, but when they see a news story that we provide out there, they say, looks like they need some more money, so we get the phone.
I found that amazing too. Because as you can see, I have my shirt on because I'm the business administrator for Henry for Music.
Yes.
And Jerry will just send me an email. Well, so-and-so just sent us some money. We didn't submit an application. There wasn't a grant offer. They just... And I think that's what I really want to bring out as one of our business strategies and tips. You must have strong media. We are, as you can see on the screen, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Check out our YouTube page, Henry for Music. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button so that there'll be some feeds that'll come through. But when you go on our website, we are constantly adding content so that you can see our engagement to our youth in the Henry County school systems, Clayton County. You know, there's a lot of individual students that may come to us that have heard about Henry for Music. But what I also want to share is our Toasting for Charity event, Thursday, July 28th, from 5 to 7 p.m. What we've been doing is to increase our collaborative efforts. We've been asking companies, corporations, organizations to be a sponsor, to take $100 in tickets. That's only 10 tickets. For $10 each ticket, so that we can forward those opportunities to our young people. There's a QR code on the flyer that, as I posted in all of my social media pages, you can click on that QR code. It'll take you right to our website, henryformusic.org, where you can purchase your tickets. You can make donations. You can also fill out the information if there's an instrument that you would like to donate. As long as it's in a good refurbished condition. We've had some people donate new instruments because they saw the work that we have been able to accomplish in getting an instrument into the hands of youth that want to learn how to play an instrument. In return, we do have a media package that our media person, Ms. Kavina, will send you the documentation or whatever, however her process is via email, so that we can get your logo, our banners, our websites. When our children go to entertain or to perform, we make sure that every sponsor's logo is posted, that they are well represented in every fundraising event that we do. So please, ma'am, please, sir, visit henryformusic.org. Grab a hold of this QR code. You can go to all of our social media sites, Henry for Music, Laverne, Lady Vern, Success Beyond Strategies on Instagram, and you're able to get this information. We would appreciate every effort that you make to help us to continue this great work of getting instruments into the hands of our young people. So Jerry, wrapping it up, what one business strategy or tip that you would leave with our audience today, those especially that have nonprofit organizations? I don't really like that word. It's a tax-exempt organization, but everybody knows what nonprofit organization means. But let them know in their process of serving their communities as a tax-exempt organization, and even for our for-business, for-profit businesses, what strategy or tip would you leave with them today that would help them to continue to be a successful, profitable business?
Well, from a nonprofit standpoint, we operated on a dual capacity with Henry Arts Alliance for several years. They actually kept our account for us, and that worked fine. And then and you can apply for grants even though you are associated with another nonprofit organization or under their belt umbrella. However, there are some organizations that will not accept your grant request unless you are an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we found that that was one of the reasons that we came across that we needed to become independent nonprofit, even though we are still a member of Henry Arts Alliance.
Yes.
And we're still a member of the Chamber of Commerce of Henry County. We still participate with community and schools. We still participate with Connecting Henry, which is a organization that we've participated in years. And one little thing that mentioned about going to the meetings of Connecting Henry, which have been very profitable for us. I think we pass out our literature and so forth. But I met the executive of the original executive director of community and schools in Henry County, and I asked him, what does he do? What do you do when you go to these meetings, all these different collaborative meetings or chamber meetings? He said, well, what I found the most profitable is that when people get up and introduce themselves, I find 5 people in that group that's attending that day that could be maybe the most connecting, beneficial for what I'm working on.
Yes.
And then at the end of the meeting, the only thing I do is I seek each one of those 5 people out to talk to them, to chat with them, and at least let them know who I am and what I'm working on. Yes. And so he taught me, gave me that valuable tool to deal with, and I've tried to use that tool as I go to any meeting that I go to.
I can attest to that tool. You do it extremely well. I learned by observing you. I said, look at him work this room. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it was quite. I thought that and that kind of process works. Not that always works, but maybe you only get to 3 of the 5 people, but that's important to get to those 3 people. And then you keep track of the other 2 people that maybe you call them or you email them, and you keep that connection going, because I find that has been the most beneficial effort is those connections and exchange of information or ideas that go a long way. Just a little thing that happened in our youth orchestra, how that came to be, and that was that we began to get so many cellos and violins and violas donated to us and they need to be kept in a temperature controlled environment. So I had to keep them in the house here in my office, and it got to the point where I had so many I just couldn't handle anymore. So I said to my neighbor guy who was helping me write grant requests, I said, what do we do? I can't handle any more violins. He said, well, we'll start an orchestra. So with that quick idea. So he and I went, where do we do that at? So he and I went to the director of the Parks and Recreation Department and sat down and had a meeting with them and said, so we ended up with a music room at Fairview Rec Center to do our orchestra, and we invited children to come at no cost. Yes. We provided the instruments, we provided the teacher to teach strings at that rec center, and our orchestra began. And we've been running that orchestra now for, I think we're going into our 4th year.
Yes, that's right.
One of our students, one of our violin students, our Eagle Scout, is at a high school orchestra now. Even though he was a homeschooler, his mother, and with a little help, figured out the dramatic way and route, what it needed to take to get him in the school orchestra in the middle school, in the public school. And it's a difficult track, and it's not very transparent. For a homeschool parent to figure out how to make that happen. So if anybody needs to know how to make that happen, we know how to make it happen.
We can tell you.
And we know the track, and we're sure that mother will help you do that if you need some help. So we started the orchestra, and then we teamed up with with the Pedagorsky Foundation,
Yes.
which is another organization that we use for support. And just this last April, we sponsored 2 concerts with the Pedagorsky Foundation coming into Henry County. And we are probably now the principal sponsor of the Pedagorsky Foundation on the south side of Atlanta, in South Metro Atlanta. And so we sponsored 2 concerts for children of the schools. And we had we had about 900 children attend our concerts. We added our professional mentor cellist to that concert.
Yes.
We had the professional piano
It
player
did a
play
beautiful,
for
beautiful
her.
job.
And so we had about 900 children of the school district and a private school come to experience those professional performers, to give them incentive to be in music and stay in music if they were. And so that's what we will continue to do with those efforts as we move along. And so I think networking is very critical to success, whether you're a profit organization or a nonprofit. And we have been looking for probably about 4 years now for a centralized location to store our musical instruments, to make them more available, to review them and keep them in inventory so that we know what we have.
Yes.
And we have
So
about
if
3
there's
locations.
anybody out there that has faith in Henry County,
And
please go to henryformusic.org. Give us your information. We are working with overflow now.
Yeah, and they keep coming. They keep coming.
Yes.
We have instruments donated to us as far away as Tybee Island, and we have music stores. I think we have 7 music stores now that receive musical instruments for us, 3 in Henry County and 4 outside of Henry County. Henry for Music in DC provides instruments to us once in a while. We have a violin shop up in Swanee, Georgia, we have a school from Tybee Island that donated us 10 violins that they were turning over in their inventory. And so it just keeps moving along. And so we have trumpets, trombones, clarinets, flutes, violins, and violas, and drums. And we need to get those out there so that we have them being played by those young students that need to get into music or stay in music and stay inspired to use that A in STEM, because the A is very important, that they have that extra incentive, and it really benefits their academics in their schoolwork.
Yes,
that's
been
a
documented and proven.
It's a
That their
scientific
cognitive
study.
skills, music helps to develop them in their education side. So we're an asset to STEM.
Just a kind of a funny side, I went to church on Sunday and I found a lady who I know from France who has some original artwork that she wants us to help her market and sell. I don't know if we can do that, but we're looking at it. Maybe we can find an artistic people in the local area that will do an auction, or do or set up a quick maybe an eBay account or something to market those pieces of artwork from France, to market them, and we can gain a profit from it as well as our church. So
Awesome. That's wonderful.
So we're looking at that and looking for somebody to help us do that.
That's awesome. I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna close for today. When you connect to like-minded people that has a magnetic attraction, y'all know where I'm going. Because our sponsors are MagnetExchangeGroup.com, and that's one of our main philosophies. You have to have a community. You have to have a connectivity in order to have a successful business, organization, ministry, whatever it is that you're doing. We cannot do it without each other. And the advancement of technology, all of that is wonderful. But what will always be needed is that connectivity with other people, with other organizations, with other groups, collaborations. I was privileged to be in on a recording on yesterday of another one of my colleagues' shows, and there was no way she could have done that production without a team. You have to have a team. You have to have a support system. You have to have a community so that collectively we can meet the needs of whatever industry you've been called to. When you put that community together, you can get much more done. With that being said, thank you so much, Jerry, for joining me today on Business Strategy and Tips with Lady L. Thank you all for joining me. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Henry from music.org, Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube channels, my YouTube channel, Lady Vern. And thank you so much for joining me today for this Finish Strong Friday.
One quick last note.
Bye for now.
Okay. We're looking for music teachers in the after-school program. So
yes, more announcements. We're also looking for board members too, because our workload is increasing. We need help. So if you have a heart for the arts, you have a heart for the arts in our youth, and you want to participate and be a part, whether it's remotely, because hey, we're on virtual streams. And if you are local in the Henry County or in the Georgia area of the Henry County, Clayton County, if you're in that vicinity area, by all means, give us your information on henryfrommusic.org. We do have an interview process for board members. We definitely looking for people, movers and shakers that can make things happen and can continue our vision, mission, and purpose for Henry from Music for our youth. So, and your second announcement, Jerry?
Just want to thank you all for inviting me to participate with you and share some of the things we have that are going on and some of the things we hope to keep going with. Awesome. We're trying to start music classes, as maybe some people know. Henry County Public Schools is going to roll out 13 new orchestras over the next couple of years, and they're needing music teachers for the orchestras, and we're trying to teach music at the after-school program at the elementary level.
Yes.
So we'll provide the teacher and the instruments.
That's our goal for 2022-2023.
We just need the teachers. We have a few, but it's not enough. We need more teachers, and if we have even retired people out there that would like to spend a couple of hours a week doing that in the elementary school level, we'd be more than happy to talk with you to see how we can make that happen.
Awesome. Absolutely. All right, everybody, and don't forget to visit henryfrommusic.org. And make sure that you are clicking that donate button where you can purchase your tickets or make a donation so that we can make this event a successful one. Have a wonderful Finish Strong Friday and an awesome weekend. Bye-bye for now.